You're listening to WZRD 101.3 FM, your voice in the dark. It's just past midnight here in Station Ridge. Skies are clear, temps holding steady at 56 degrees. And if you're still up, well, you're not alone. I'll be with you through the next few hours. Songs, stories, calls, whatever keeps the night moving. We've got mellow tunes lined up tonight. A bit of classic soul. A touch of synthwave, if we're feeling wild. I've got a letter here from Laura in Brighton, who says her cat won't sleep unless this station's playing. Laura, if you're out there, this one's for your fuzzy little insomnia buddy. Funny how this job makes you feel like you know people just from their voices. Regulars call in, talk about their days, their dreams, sometimes about things they're afraid to say out loud anywhere else. And there's something comforting about that, isn't there? Just voices in the dark. No pressure to make sense. Just sound. You know, someone once said radio is like breathing. You don't think about it until it stops. Coming up after the break, a request from a trucker heading west on Route 7 who says he saw, well, we'll get to that. But first, a track you haven't heard in a while. Stay with me. I'll be right here. Did you hear that? Apologies, folks. Seems we had a little interference just now. Might be the tower, maybe something in the signal chain. Nothing serious. Happens sometimes when the humidity plays games with the line. But if you're hearing any distortion on your end, feel free to call in, let us know. Pauses, adjust levels. Strange. It didn't sound like feedback. More like something skipping. Just for a second. Or maybe that's me needing coffee. Anyway, we'll keep an ear on it. Let's go to a quick call. Line 2, you're on WZRD. What's on your mind tonight? Crackling silence. Line 2, hello? All right, maybe a dropped call. Another moment of silence. Okay, let's move on. Next track is something chill, to take the edge off whatever that blip was. We've got more music, more stories coming up. But seriously, if you're out there and you caught that glitch, let me know. Wasn't just in my headphones, was it? Because, I don't know. It felt off. Like the sound bent around itself. Like something was trying to say something and got swallowed halfway through. Stay with me. That last song, something was in there. We've had 6 calls in the past 10 minutes. Not about the track, not about the static, about something underneath the music. A few listeners described it the same way, like a whisper at the end of the track, barely audible, fast, breathy, like someone exhaling syllables that didn't belong. One caller, Travis from Mayfield, said it gave him a headache so sharp he had to pull over. He tried to explain what it sounded like but couldn't repeat it. Said when he tried, his tongue froze up. He started laughing, then crying, and hung up. I tried calling him back. The number's out of service. Another listener emailed a short clip they recorded during the broadcast. I played it back, off air. It's nothing. Garbled, distorted. But even hearing it again, I felt something in my chest tighten. Like my body understood something my mind didn't. I want to say it's just radio noise, cross signals. But my gut says otherwise, and I don't like ignoring my gut. So here's what I'll do. I'll dig into this, play back some of the tape after the next break. If it's nothing, we'll laugh about it. If it's something, well, you're here with me. And we'll figure it out together. The phones haven't stopped ringing. I'm looking at the board, every line flashing. I've never seen it like this. Not even during storms or election nights. Every single caller, it's the same thing. Headaches, pressure behind the eyes, a feeling like something's crawling just beneath the skin. Not pain exactly, more like something trying to press its way out. A woman just told me she can't hear her husband's voice anymore. She says it comes out warped, like he's underwater or speaking backward. And yet to him, everything sounds fine. Someone else said they had a word stuck in their head, Not a word they know, just a shape of sound, repeating, like a loop. They can't describe it. They can't stop hearing it. It won't leave. I keep trying to steer the show back to normal, play music, reset the tone, but it's not working. I keep tripping over my own words. My mouth feels tight, like it's fighting me. Okay, one more call before the break. Line 3. You're on the air. Silence. Hello? Caller. It's here. It's... And then he said it. I don't know how else to explain it. One syllable. A whisper, maybe. But the moment he spoke it, something shifted. There was a pause. Then a gasp. And then breathing. Labored. Shallow. I kept asking if he was all right. Kept repeating his name. But he didn't respond. And the sound that came through next, I'll never forget it. Not screaming, not choking. Just a body slumping forward while the lungs kept trying to remember what to do. Like the brain had shut off and forgotten how to be. I pulled the fader down, sat here, staring at the mic. There's still breath in the studio. Mine. Yours, if you're still listening. But something's changing. I can't shake the sound of that word, even though I didn't catch it fully. It felt like it bypassed language and went straight into me. A sound meant for no one to hear. Or maybe only meant for us. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. But if you're out there, don't repeat what you think you heard. Don't try to name it. That's how it begins. Let's take a break. Just breathe. I said we'd take a break. But the lines are flashing again. And this can't wait. We've just received confirmation. Official emergency bulletins are being issued across 5 major cities: Atlanta, Chicago, Portland, Austin, and Detroit. The wording is vague. Linguistic instability is what they're calling it. But the reports coming in from listeners are anything but vague. People are speaking nonsense, not just gibberish, not slurring or confusion. Whole sentences made of sounds, syllables, but no structure. Words that mimic language but mean nothing. And the worst part? They don't know they're doing it. A nurse from Milwaukee called in. Said patients in her ER were repeating phrases like Phalos Kelthra and Nandar C over and over again. Some said it like a chant. Others whispered it like a secret. One patient tried to write it out. Just loops, scribbled spirals, no letters, no form. Another caller described watching a man at a gas station speak to a clerk for 3 minutes, confidently, calmly, except not a single recognizable word left his mouth. And when confronted, he blinked, looked confused, and just walked out into traffic. They're calling it a speech anomaly. But you and I, we know better. Something got in through the airwaves, through that word. This isn't just noise anymore. It's spreading. And if you're listening, I need you to listen harder. You have to hold on to the real words, the ones you know. Anchor yourself in them, because whatever this is, it's pulling people loose from meaning itself. Stay with me. We're not alone yet. Ambulances can't keep up. The scanners are chaos, calls stacking on calls, and dispatchers losing their grip. A firefighter from Indianapolis left a voicemail earlier, said his crew responded to a call from a public library. People were collapsed between the stacks, muttering. When they tried to communicate, the victims just laughed. A high, breathless laughter like it wasn't theirs. And then the laughter synced. Perfect rhythm. Like they were following a script no one else could see. Hospitals are overflowing, not with the sick, but the altered. Patients stare into corners, whisper into vents, press their foreheads against walls as if listening for something coming from the other side. They don't scream. They don't struggle. They just disconnect. Emergency rooms are calling for reinforcements, but half the staff isn't showing up. One nurse said she found her colleague in the break room, eyes wide, mouth open, silently mouthing something. Paramedics don't know what to treat. Blood pressure's fine. Vitals are stable. But the language is gone. And with it, so is the person. We used to think silence was scary. But this isn't silence. It's wrong sound. A living noise that replaces your words with its own. And the more I hear it, the more I worry that we've passed the point of containment. I've been reaching out to specialists all night. Linguists, neurologists, audio engineers. Some picked up, most didn't. One professor from a university in Colorado called back, briefly. Said the phenomenon resembles what's called glossolalia, unstructured speech that mimics language but has no semantic meaning. Usually occurs during religious trances or extreme stress. But this isn't stress, this isn't worship, this is transmission. He said something about phonemic override. How repeated exposure to certain sounds can hijack the brain's natural linguistic scaffolding. I asked if he thought it was a virus. He paused, then said, no. Worse. It's an idea pretending to be a sound. I tried calling him back later. Line was dead. Another expert, an audio tech from the UK, emailed us a waveform breakdown of the clip we aired earlier. According to him, there were subharmonics embedded in the distortion, frequencies just beneath the human range, almost subliminal. He described them as not music, not speech, instruction. No one's offering a solution, just theory after theory wrapped in fear. And the most terrifying part, the ones who study language for a living, they're the first to go quiet. One by one, they stop responding. Or worse, they respond, but the syntax is broken. Their sentences trail off mid-thought. They use words that don't belong to any known language family. And then they disappear. If meaning is how we hold reality together, then what happens when we forget how to mean? Keep listening. Don't drift. We asked you to send in what you were hearing, and you did. Hundreds of audio messages flooded in overnight. Most are corrupted, static, silence, strange echoes layered under breathing. But some came through clear, and what they contain. I've never heard anything like it. One voicemail came from a father who recorded his daughter humming a melody that didn't exist before. He swore she hadn't spoken a word in days. Just that hum, repeating endlessly. When he tried to hum along with her, he forgot how to finish sentences. Said his mind slid sideways. He ended the message crying and whispering, "It's inside the tune. It's hiding in it." Another came from a truck driver, hours outside Tucson. He'd picked up a hitchhiker who seemed normal until they spoke. Not in full words, just pulses of syllables that looped over and over. The driver tried to mimic it as a joke, said it made his mouth taste like metal. He started choking, pulled over. That was 2 days ago. He hasn't been heard from since. These aren't pranks. These aren't hoaxes. They're pieces of a puzzle, and we don't know what picture we're building. But I know, we're not just listening to these tapes. They're listening back. And something about that idea makes my skin crawl. Because what if this word isn't just a sound, but a seed? Something that grows inside you the moment you hear it? There's one more tape. We debated playing it, but you need to hear what obsession sounds like when it stops pretending to be fear. I don't know who sent this. No name, no number, just a file titled rememberme.wav. It starts with breathing, close, shallow, then a voice, not loud, not panicked, just wrong, like someone trying to sound human and forgetting halfway through. I heard it 3 days ago. At first it was just noise, but then it started shaping my thoughts, like it was editing them. I go to say something and it would change the word halfway through. The voice chuckles. It's uneven. Wet. Then, you know what the worst part is? I like it now. It tells me things. Better words, clearer words. I don't remember my mother's name, but I remember the sound. The sound is better. There's tapping, slow, rhythmic, and then it's not a word, it's a pathway. You let it in when you try to repeat it, and you will. Eventually, we all do. The final sentence is whispered, barely there. It's waiting for the silence to be full enough to speak again. And then, nothing. Just hum. Not a frequency, not music, just hum. We've run every tool we have on that file. Frequency isolation, reverse playback, audio mapping. But the last 4 seconds of that tape don't register a sound at all. And I think that's when it finally started listening to us. I want to be clear about something. What's happening to people? It's not just external. It's not just behavior. It's internal, deep, intimate. It's inside the folds of thought itself. We spoke to a woman from Albany, said she first noticed it when her thoughts started echoing. Not out loud, not like hearing voices, just repeating the same sentence over and over like her brain got stuck in a loop. She said, I would think I need to pick up groceries. And then immediately, pick up groceries, pick up groceries. Faster each time. I stopped thinking in full ideas, just fragments, then noise. A man from El Paso described a sensation like someone was editing his memories in real time. He said he'd try to remember his sister's name and end up with something close but wrong. Like a parody of his own life, filtered through something else. Many survivors talk about the silence that comes after the word. Not peace, not quiet, but a kind of psychological vacuum, an absence of self-talk. You know that internal narrator you've had your whole life? The one that helps you process the world? Gone. One man said, it's like a voice moved in where mine used to be. He didn't sound scared. He sounded relieved. I don't know what scares me more. That this thing is taking our thoughts, or that some people want it to. Because if your inner voice is replaced, how do you even know who you are anymore? And the ones who don't lose it completely, they start whispering to themselves, to corners, to the static, as if they're trying to keep the word company. We're watching language collapse in real time, not just around us, but inside us. A former speech therapist in Vancouver left a message that chilled me to the bone. She said her clients, those recovering from strokes, used to struggle with speech, yes, but now even the healthy ones are regressing. People with no prior conditions are suddenly unable to form full sentences. They pause mid-word, blink, and try again, like something is jamming the signal between mind and mouth. She said one of her patients tried to say grandmother, and what came out was Gramth, then Ganther, then just hums. Others report a rising anxiety, not from forgetting, but from trying to speak at all. The act of forming a sentence triggers a fight or flight response. Hearts race, breathing shortens. One woman described the sensation as, like my own words were knives in my throat. And the terrifying part, it isn't just happening when they speak. It happens when they think. People are beginning to fear their own thoughts. They're retreating from language like it's a contagious rash, something that spreads the moment you engage with it. I've noticed it myself. Certain phrases slip away. I'll reach for a word I've used 1,000 times, and it just evaporates. I try to grab it, and it turns to vapor. I keep telling myself this is stress, fatigue, overload, but a small voice, mine for now, keeps whispering. What if the word is rewriting the part of us that knows how to speak? And if that part goes, what's left? It's spreading through the neighborhoods now. Not the word itself, at least not audibly, but the fear of it, the doubt. Families are turning inward, locking doors, not to keep something out, but to trap it inside. I've gotten messages from people who've barricaded their children in bedrooms. Not because the kids are dangerous, but because they heard them whispering in their sleep. A teenager in Des Moines posted a voice note online. Said his mother stopped using his name. Just called him boy or you. When he asked her why, she said, names can catch things. He hasn't seen her since. One couple from Pennsylvania said they've started communicating using hand signs only. They live in complete silence, not for spiritual reasons, not for peace, but because they no longer trust language. They said, and every sentence feels like a risk. And the worst part, see, no one knows who's infected. There are no marks, no visible symptoms. You might not even know it's taken root in you until someone points it out, until someone accuses you of speaking wrong. That's when it turns. One listener admitted, quietly, like a confession, that he pushed his brother down the stairs, said he heard something off in his tone, that his rhythm was unnatural, that he felt safer once it was done. This isn't mass hysteria. This is survival instinct turned inward, warping logic, trust, family. If language is how we connect, how we recognize one another, then its corruption turns everyone into a stranger. And right now, it feels like no one is safe from that. Not even the ones you love most. If you've been listening this long, then maybe you've noticed it too. The way my voice has started to trip. Not just fatigue. I've worked longer shifts than this years ago, during the floods, the blackouts. I didn't stumble then. I didn't lose words. But tonight, something's different. I read the weather report just now, second time in a row, and I couldn't find the word for the thing. You know, the thing that happens when the sun disappears and the water comes down. Rain. That's the word, rain. I had it just now, didn't I? I'm looking at the news ticker on the studio monitor, and none of it is sinking in. The words are there. I see them, but they're just lines. No meaning, just shape. Earlier, I called for a song. I cued it. But when I opened my mouth to introduce it, I froze. Not from nerves. I wasn't scared. I was blank. Like my voice knew what it had to do, but my thoughts were one step behind. Like someone else had written the sentence, and I was reading it aloud for the first time without knowing the end. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've never lost a sentence, not once. Now I lose 5 per minute. There's something behind the mic with me now, not a person, a pressure, a hum under my tongue, like it's waiting to take the reins. If you're still with me, I need you to say your name. Out loud, right now. Say it twice. Say it like it matters. Say it before it slips away from you, too, because I think I'm starting to forget mine. You know what's strange? I can remember my first broadcast. I remember the nerves, the way my hands shook when I cued the intro music. I remember the smell of this booth, the way the console lights blinked like fireflies. I remember all of that, but I can't remember his name. My co-host, my friend, my partner in the studio for over a decade. He used to sit across from me, coffee in one hand, script in the other, always correcting my trivia facts mid-show, always bringing snacks he never shared, and I can see his face, clear as day. I can picture his laugh, his voice, even the exact stupid denim jacket he wore no matter the season. But I can't say his name. I tried earlier. When I told a story about our first overnight broadcast, I reached for his name and found fog, static. It's not just gone, it's erased, like it was never there to begin with. And the more I try to pull it back, the more it resists. The more I feel something else sliding in to take its place. Something cold, familiar, wrong. I'm terrified that the same thing is happening to you. That while you listen, words are rearranging themselves. That names you once knew, your own, are fading. So say it again. Say your name, out loud, before something else answers, when someone calls it. Because I don't think I'm the only one who's forgotten who I am. They finally spoke. After days of mounting silence from official channels, the first press conference aired this morning. A presidential address, not live, pre-recorded, and stilted. The president looked tired, not physically, not the usual signs of exhaustion. This was deeper, like every sentence was a mountain he had to climb just to reach the next. He opened with the usual, "Remain calm. We are in control." But the way he said control, it lagged. The syllables didn't connect properly. It came out like contro. The sound stalled in his mouth, and for a heartbeat you could see it in his eyes. He knew something was wrong. He blinked, adjusted his tie, then smiled. Too wide, too stiff. He kept going, talking about linguistic dissonance, muchada containment protocols, digital interference, fancy phrases meant to soften panic. But his sentences grew stranger, verbs missing, metaphors that didn't resolve. He referred to the nation as a suspended hallway of light. That's not metaphor. That's something else. Then came the part that chilled me. We ask all citizens to reduce active conversation, speak only when necessary, limit your verbal exposure. No one blinked. No one questioned it. The media parroted it. Headlines this afternoon simply read, "Speak less, think clearly." A new government slogan, apparently. But who wrote it? If you will watch the whole statement, uncut, you'll notice something else. Toward the end, his voice drops half a pitch, not an edit, a shift, like someone else was finishing his words. And here's the kicker. Linguists who reviewed the speech say a total of 6 non-lexical insertions occurred. 6 moments where the president spoke something that isn't listed in any known language index. They're calling it an error. I call it a leak, and I think whatever got into us may have gotten to them too. If you're trying to tune into your national news network right now, good luck. They're vanishing. Not in a metaphorical sense, not in a rating sense, literally. Gone. The first to fall was the BBC. Then CNN, NHK, ZDF, CBC. One by one, the feed stuttered mid-sentence. Anchors caught mid-blink, lips parting, syllables unfinished. And then nothing. Just static, or worse, emergency tones with no explanation. I was watching a live panel from a major U.S. outlet. 4 experts discussing linguistic trauma. One of them, a neuroscientist, began speaking slowly, carefully, until she paused mid-thought and said, "There's something behind the words." The host tried to redirect. She didn't respond. Then the signal froze. Then cut. An insider from one of the networks emailed us, said management was instructed to pre-record, sanitize, delay feed all live commentary. But even those pre-recordings started to show signs, hosts slurring, captions not matching audio, background speech anomalies that weren't in the studio. One audio technician reported something unexplainable. While cleaning up a voiceover, he removed all noise below 60 hertz, sub-bass frequencies, and what remained? A whisper beneath the anchor's voice, perfectly synchronized, not audible in the original. Only once he stripped everything else away. It said, "Do not translate me." His hand shook so badly he deleted the file and quit his job that night. And now, when you turn on those channels, you'll either hear silence, white noise, or, if you're unlucky, the emergency tone. But listen long enough, and under that tone, something else pulses, something with rhythm, like a language learning how to crawl. And I think we're not just losing control of our speech, we're losing the medium that held reality together. It was only a matter of time. Within hours of the final blackout, curfews were announced, not just in major cities, everywhere, from New York to rural Montana, from Berlin to remote towns in Norway. But these aren't normal curfews. They're not about staying indoors for safety. They're about silence. The official term is linguistic containment. I'm reading the mandate right now. All verbal communication outside approved zones is to cease immediately. Unauthorized speech may result in containment or neutralization. Neutralization. They've set up what they're calling anti-linguistic zones, ALZs. Entire neighborhoods where talking is forbidden. You enter one of these zones, and the signs read, "No speech beyond this point." People caught whispering are escorted away. Some vanish entirely. Others return quiet, vacant, eyes open, mouth shut. And when they do speak again, it's wrong. There are rumors, God, I wish they were just rumors, of devices being deployed. Military-grade vocal dampeners, sound scramblers, portable frequency jammers that make it physically painful to try and speak. They're calling it protection, a preventative measure, but it's not about protecting us from the word. It's about stopping the word from using us. You see, it's not just something you hear. It's something that wants to travel through you, through sound, through speech. It needs hosts. And we've all got the equipment, so now talking is dangerous, sharing is treason. We were taught that words are what made us human. Now they're treated like weapons. And maybe they are. Because the more we try to explain this thing, the faster it spreads. Which means silence is the new survival. But even now, beneath that silence, I swear I can hear it humming. Someone sent us a file last night. No return address, no signature, just the subject line. You deserve to know what they did. At first, I thought it was another conspiracy rant. We've been getting a lot of those, but this was different. It's a transcript, 37 pages, marked classified in every corner. Pages dated months before the first confirmed broadcast anomaly, long before the first collapse. The document details a project called Coral Pattern, a joint initiative between defense contractors, neuro-linguistic programmers, and black budget research labs. The purpose? To test the limits of cognitive disruption through embedded phonetics, not subliminal messaging, not mind control, something purer, something deeper. The introduction refers to it as semantic decay architecture, the idea that if you construct a phrase that defies all known syntactic rules, you can corrode the brain's ability to process language at all. It started as theory. Then came live trials. A small town in Arizona was listed. No name, just coordinates. Field test alpha, population 312. Post-test assessment, 74% reduction in coherent speech within 3 days, 18% catatonic, 8% unaccounted for. Then a single redacted line. Result deemed replicable via broadcast medium. The final page is a memo, 1 paragraph. The signal will not require full comprehension to infect. It will function as a mimetic resonance. Exposure alone initiates the restructuring process. That's their language, cold, clinical. They didn't stumble on the word. They built it. And now they've lost control of it. The signal's out. The word is loose. And all they can do now is silence the rest of us before we figure it out, before we speak it, before we become it. There's one more thing. A file. Leaked, intercepted, erased almost everywhere, but not before it spread. It was recorded during a secure transmission. 2 government operatives on a scrambled line. Believed to be from a site referred to only as Vault 7E. Their voices are distorted, filtered for anonymity, but their words, they're crystal clear. The file is under 2 minutes long, and every second of it burns. Operator 1. The word isn't accidental. You know that. It was a construct. Layered phonemes over a bass harmonic. Designed to bypass comprehension and reach the root functions. Operator 2. Yes. I saw the waveform. It's not speech, it's architecture. Language engineered to collapse itself. Operator 1. And now it's evolving. The word is adapting. Shorter, sharper. It's compressing itself for speed. For spread operator 2. We can't control it anymore. Operator 1. It's not about control. It never was. It's a trigger. Built to fire once, and we've already pulled it. There's a pause. A long one. Then one of them says quietly, like it's not meant to be heard, it wants to be said. That's how it finishes. That line, that's the one they tried to scrub. We've tracked the deletion patterns. Automated AI, scrubbing bots hitting every instance of that file. Every upload, every mirror site, every private inbox where it was forwarded, gone. Except here. I've played it 3 times now. And each time, something strange happens. Not to the sound itself, to the space around it. The air seems heavier. My thoughts scatter. I forget what I was saying, halfway through. And when it ends, for a second, I feel like something else is in the room with me. Not a presence, not even a sound, just the expectation of being spoken. This wasn't just a leaked file. This was a confession. And if what they said is true, if the word was designed to be a trigger, then we weren't meant to understand it. We were meant to repeat it. And that may already be happening. The calls haven't stopped. The emails come in hourly now. And not just from survivors, from experts, from professionals who once laughed off our early reports, who dismissed this as hysteria, mass psychosis, misinformation. Now, they aren't laughing. They're whispering. We've spoken with neurolinguists, audio theorists, sonic warfare researchers, and even deep-sea acoustic engineers. And the most terrifying thing isn't what they know. It's what they don't. They can't agree on what this is. Some say it's a linguistic virus, not a pathogen, but a mimetic contagion, a strand of phonetic code that hijacks the part of the brain responsible for semantic structure. Once heard, it doesn't just live in your memory, it rewires it, slowly, silently, from the inside out. Others insist it's a sonic anomaly, a frequency construct not bound by conventional speech patterns. One theorist compared it to a verbal black hole, a sound that consumes meaning rather than creating it. The most grounded explanation we've heard, that this is a resonance effect, a kind of feedback loop between brain and broadcast, triggering linguistic collapse. But even that doesn't explain why it seems to choose its victims. Why some hear it and survive, while others simply disappear behind their own eyes. One cognitive physicist, now missing, wrote this in his final email. It's not just phonemes, it's architecture, a word shaped like a trap, and when you try to understand it, you spring it. None of them can agree on terminology. None of them can suggest treatment. All they agree on is this: it wasn't accidental. And the longer it's out there, the more it adapts, compressing, replicating, evolving into something less understandable, and therefore more dangerous. So the question isn't, what is it? The question is, what happens when we stop being able to describe it at all? Science has no consensus, but now the churches are speaking. And what they're saying? It's not comfort. In Jerusalem, the chief rabbi held a press conference and refused to use the word. He replaced it with the utterance. He claimed it fulfills an ancient pattern, one only discussed in cryptic Talmudic commentary, a phrase not meant to be spoken, not by man. In Rome, the Vatican issued a statement from behind shuttered doors. We believe this phenomenon is not linguistic, but spiritual. It is not meant for comprehension. It is meant for reckoning. Even the Grand Mufti in Istanbul warned that the sound has an unnatural familiarity, that those who hear it are remembering something that should have remained forgotten. And in the back corners of the internet, fringe preachers and prophetic cults are calling it the voice of the end, a final signal whispered across the world, speaking not to our minds, but to our judgment. They say this word was always there, buried in sacred geometry, in divine ratio, in forgotten alphabets and shattered tongues. A sound from before Babel. And maybe that's why it terrifies them so deeply. Because it's not just new. It's old. Older than language. Older than thought. A fossil of something that existed before humans learned to speak. And now, for the first time in millennia, it's spoken back. I spoke to a priest who'd sealed himself inside his chapel. He wouldn't look me in the eye. He just said, God speaks in silence. But when silence learns to speak, that is the end of God. So what if this isn't science failing to understand? What if it's faith recognizing something it never wanted to face? What if the word isn't evil? What if it's true? If you still believe this is psychological, panic-induced, listen to this. A team of cognitive neuroscientists, before their lab went silent, shared a set of neural scans with us. Controlled tests. Volunteers exposed to a low-frequency recording of what we now call the word, masked inside ambient tones. These were not infected individuals. These were healthy, baseline brains. And yet, within seconds of exposure, their scans changed. You could see it. Areas tied to memory, speech comprehension, and identity lit up, then dimmed, not evenly, not like sleep, but chaotically, randomized firing, misfiring. The hippocampus, the center for memory, started redirecting electrical signals, not to new memories, to nowhere. It was as if the brain no longer trusted itself to store what it was experiencing. The scans looked like trauma, like the brain was bracing for impact, then dissolving into static. One scientist described it as watching a language engine unlearn its own rules. They ran verbal cognition tests afterward, sentence completion, word recall, even simple name identification. Every subject failed, not with wrong answers, but with no answers. They tried to speak and simply stopped. Not from fear, not from confusion, from absence, like the part of the self that connects thought to speech had been uncoupled. And then came the worst part. 2 of the test subjects wrote down new symbols. Symbols no one taught them. Not letters, not from any known alphabet, but all 6 subjects drew the same ones. Curved, recursive, flowing inward like a spiral. When asked what it meant, one wrote, "It's the way out." And we haven't heard from them since. So if you think this is about communication, you're only half right. Because whatever the word is, it doesn't just change what you say, it changes who you are. What if we've misunderstood from the beginning? What if this isn't a word? That's the new theory, a radical one. And I'm warning you, it will break your brain if you follow it too far. A cognitive linguist out of Prague, one of the last still speaking publicly, calls it a non-representational construct, meaning it doesn't represent a thought or emotion. Like normal language, it is the thought, a thought virus, something so pure, so fundamental that when your mind encounters it, it has no filters to process it, no way to translate it into safe categories like sound, symbol, or idea. She called it a perfect concept, a recursive truth, one that loops inside itself endlessly until your consciousness begins to fold inward too. According to her, the moment you hear the word, your reality doesn't change. You do. Because what if perception isn't passive? What if it's programmable? And what if this word is the first instruction ever spoken that wasn't meant to describe the world, but to overwrite it? People talk about losing their names, their memories, their capacity for speech. But what if that's just the side effect? What if what's really being erased is the boundary between self and everything else? That would explain the look in the eyes of those who have gone quiet. Not madness, not fear, but clarity. As if they've understood something we're not meant to. Something that doesn't need language, that replaces language. And if you've been feeling it lately, that pressure behind your thoughts, like something's trying to speak through you before you even open your mouth, then maybe you've already heard it, and you just haven't realized it yet. It happened live. Dr. Eleni Vassos, world-renowned linguist, pioneer in phonosemantic theory, and up until last week, the leading voice of reason in all of this, agreed to go on air. A global simulcast, networks all over the world tuned in. The plan was simple, a 10-minute academic summary. Calm, controlled, evidence-based. What followed was anything but. She started fine, a bit too composed, like she was reading through clenched teeth. She said, We have to stop thinking of language as a tool. It's not a tool. It's a system. And systems can be weaponized. That line, that was the beginning of the spiral. She spoke about how the word has no etymology, no root, no cultural source, that it bypasses linguistic lineage, that it isn't a part of language. It predates it. Her voice trembled just once as she whispered, "It didn't come from us. It came through us." Then came the shift. Her pacing collapsed. She began to repeat phrases, echoing herself. "Erase the structure. Erase the structure. It's recursive. It's recursive. It's recursive." Producers tried to cut the feed. Too late. She slammed her fist into the table and screamed, "Erase the archives! Burn the books! It's buried in everything we've ever said!" Then she spoke a string of syllables. 6 of them. They didn't match any language. No one could replicate them. But the moment she said them, audio systems began to distort. Microphones shrieked. Broadcast servers went dark. Some described it as feedback. Others as resonance. The transmission ended with one final breathless whisper. There is no silence left, only the memory of sound. She hasn't been seen since, but those 6 syllables, those who watch the stream live. Many say they can still hear them. Not out loud, but under everything, like a memory you didn't make, like something humming inside your breath. So maybe she was right. Maybe this isn't just a word. Maybe it's the last one, and it's devouring the rest. Even now, after the institutions have gone quiet, after the voices we trusted dissolved into static, some signals still fight their way through. Not words, not speech, something else. They're calling it the soundless resistance. Across the dial, in strange places, between abandoned weather channels inside emergency bands, you can catch them. Bursts of Morse code, repeating pulses, low, rhythmic tones that rise and fall like breathing. Sometimes it's just a pattern of chimes. Sometimes it's music, notes stitched together in odd time signatures, never quite resolving. But if you know how to listen, there's intention in the chaos. One listener in St. Louis picked up what sounded like ambient noise, just a slow, looping hum. He isolated it, boosted the volume, what he found underneath, a directional signal embedded in harmonic distortion. A map. It led him to a safe house. 4 others were already there. They weren't talking, just nodding, communicating with blinks and taps, a kind of silence that felt coordinated, deliberate. This isn't a fight anymore. It's adaptation. The idea is simple. If the word uses language as a vector, then strip it away. Starve it. Speak in rhythm, not meaning. Share without saying. Let music become your grammar. Let tone become your syntax. It's not elegant. It's not poetic, but it's working. These pirate signals, they're not just warnings. They're blueprints, new ways of being, a different kind of broadcast, one the word can't feed on. Not yet, and maybe not ever. There's a group forming now, out in the open, but somehow still invisible. They call themselves the Rewired. No one's sure how many there are. Dozens? Hundreds? More? What we know is this. They don't speak, they don't write, they don't think, not in the way you and I do. Not anymore. One survivor sent a message using only time blinks and muscle ticks. It took hours to translate, but the content was staggering. We have trained our minds to operate outside language. We process reality through sensation, through spatial memory, through internal patterning. They claim they've abandoned syntax entirely, that thoughts, as we know them, verbal, structured, linear, are what gave the word its doorway. The Rewired believe they've closed that door. It started with deprivation therapy, floating tanks, silence chambers. Then came visual fasting. No text, no signs, no labels, just color and motion and rhythm. Eventually, their inner monologues stopped. Not paused, not quieted, erased. They describe it as peace, as if the constant hum of thought had been a parasite all along. One they mistook for themselves. A few who returned from the group briefly spoke slowly, cautiously, not because they were afraid, because speech felt dangerous, like a blade, like each word might invite something back in. One man whispered, "The word can't find me anymore. I live outside of what it understands." I don't know if that's hope or delusion, but I do know this: they're surviving. And in a world where language kills, maybe unthinking, is the last form of resistance left. I didn't believe it at first. The messages started last week. Audio files sent through anonymous proxies, buried inside corrupted digital weather reports. No sender, no origin. But they all opened the same way. I am the archivist, and I remember what was lost. The voice was distorted, mechanically filtered, not human, not robotic. It was deliberate, and what followed wasn't a warning. It was a set of riddles, questions structured like puzzles, but buried in metaphor, half poetry, half signal. The first one read, "If the word is the match, what burned was never paper. Find what cannot be spoken, and listen to what it says in return." Another transmission included a harmonic spectrum graph, frequencies marked with gaps that, when played as notes, formed a melody. That melody, when translated into Morse code, spelled a single phrase, not the first, not the last. We think the archivist is a defector, someone who worked on the Choral Pattern project, someone who helped build the original signal, and regretted it, desperately. In one of the files, the voice faltered, just briefly, but in that moment, I swear, I heard fear, not of being found, of being heard. Their latest message just arrived tonight, encrypted, took hours to break. Inside, a single audio clip, 9 seconds long. It contained another word, not the original, not that word, but a new one, smaller, sharper, harsher on the ears, and beneath it, a final whisper. The first was the opener. The second closes the door behind us. I haven't aired that clip, not yet. Because if the archivist is right, then we haven't reached the end. We've only triggered the next phase. And the word? It may have only been a prelude. They're calling it the second word. Not officially, not in any surviving broadcast or document, but in whispers, in half-finished messages, in nervous scribbles passed hand to hand, in safe houses and signal black zones. The idea is spreading faster than the first word ever did, that there's another one, a second sequence, not a mutation, not an echo, a continuation, and unlike the first, which dismantled language, this one ends what's left. I've heard reports, vague, terrifying, of people going completely still after exposure. Not speaking, not reacting, not even breathing, technically. Their hearts slow to imperceptible rhythms. Bodies alive, minds gone. The phrase being passed around is full linguistic nullification, meaning not just a breakdown of speech, but of being. Not silence, oblivion. A scientist in hiding claims it works differently, that the first word invited the collapse, but the second confirms it, like a kill switch built into cognition itself. Not content with muting meaning, it erases the need for it entirely. If that's true, if we're now standing between two signals, one that broke our voices and another poised to take what's left of our minds, then this isn't a broadcast anymore. It's a countdown. And here's the part that chills me. The archivist? Their last message ended with a timestamp, 4:07:32. That's tomorrow, just after midnight. No context, no explanation, just time ticking forward, as if something is scheduled to be heard, or released, or spoken again. So if you're still listening, if your thoughts still belong to you, then write your name somewhere. Say it out loud. Hold on to it, because if the second word exists, if it speaks the way they say it does, there won't be another warning. There won't be another voice. there'll be only the word. And after that, nothing. It's been, I don't know how long. There's no clock anymore, no time signals, no schedule to anchor the day. Just this quiet, thick, heavy, unnatural. The air feels wrong, like it's waiting for something. There are no more broadcasts, no voices, no news, no songs, no chatter on the street, no muttered arguments or casual greetings. Just the mechanical hum of things that don't know they've been abandoned. Elevators still ding. Refrigerators still buzz. Streetlights flicker on cue. But the people who built them, who use them, silent. And not the kind of silence that comforts. Not the kind that means peace. It's the kind of silence that follows something. The kind that comes after. I walked past a playground yesterday. The swings were moving in the wind, and I waited, out of habit, for the sound of laughter, a child's voice, a parent's warning, anything, nothing. The whole world feels like it's holding its breath. I think about words we used to throw away, the ones we never thought twice about. Hello, thank you, I'm here, I'm listening. Now even my own thoughts hesitate, like language inside my head knows it's being watched. Like every syllable might still carry it, the word, or what comes after. People used to say silence was golden. But that's not what this is. This silence is the color of ash, of something that burned too fast to be stopped. And now there's just the waiting. For what? I don't know. Maybe for someone to speak again, or maybe for someone to finally stop trying. I've been thinking about the things we never bothered to record. We archive speeches, interviews, declarations of war and peace, politicians, performers, podcasters, but not the things that mattered, not the bedtime stories, not the last-minute apologies whispered through tears, not the way your mother said your name when she was angry or when she was proud, and how you could tell the difference even when the words were the same. Not the pauses in a joke before the punchline, the stumbles during vows, the breath a person takes before saying I love you, or worse, I'm leaving. Those sounds are gone. There's no record of how we actually lived. Not the sacred, stupid daily poetry of being human. Do you remember lullabies? Not just the words, the way they sounded, the tremble in the voice of someone half asleep, humming nonsense into the dark to keep nightmares away. A song with no audience but a heartbeat. Gone. We knew the word was dangerous. We feared what it could take from us, but no one ever warned us what its absence would leave behind. What a world without speaking would feel like. There's no church bell that rings anymore, no school roll calls, no promises made under stars, no final words whispered at hospital bedsides, no names being passed from one life to another. Language was more than communication. It was memory, identity, legacy. Now it's vapor, a myth, and every hour that passes I forget more of it, not because I want to, but because there's nothing left to echo it back. So if you're still listening, if you're still thinking in words, don't let them dissolve inside you. Say something, anything, even if no one answers, even if no one hears you, even if all that's left is this transmission, still running in the dark, because silence isn't peace, it's erasure. There are still people out there. I've received signals, quiet, fragmented, from places beyond what we thought was reachable, far underground, deep within the forests, beneath old bunkers repurposed into shelters. They're alive, but not living as we once did. These are the ones who chose silence, not because they were infected, but because they were afraid to be, because they saw what the rest of us didn't. Early on, that language had stopped being a bridge and become a weapon, so they stopped crossing. They don't speak, not even to themselves. They've given up names, written nothing down, created new signs, blinks, breath rhythms, coded taps on metal, a full conversation in the way a hand curls, or the distance someone stands from a door. One of them, an old archivist, I think, Managed to get a pulse through. Just a heartbeat. Encoded in slow bursts. I translated it as best I could. It said, "We remember, but only in shapes." They've trained themselves to forget words, to let concepts dissolve before they can form. They survive by staying ahead of thought, never giving memory enough time to crystallize into meaning. I envy them, sometimes, because what I remember hurts. Not just what we lost, but how we lost it. And they're right to be cautious. Even now, certain syllables still echo inside me, harmless in shape, but heavy with intent. I don't say them. I don't even think them, not fully. Just fragments that rattle in my chest like old keys to a door no one should open again. They're surviving. But they are not coming back. Not to language, not to us. And if they've chosen that silence forever, maybe they're the only ones who will make it. I recorded this days ago, before the slip started, before I noticed the thoughts thinning, before the words got harder to hold. This, what you're hearing now, is the last version of me that still remembered how to say things. I wanted to leave something behind, not for glory, not for legacy, just for the sound of it, just so someone, somewhere, might hear a voice and remember that there were voices once. We used to speak without fear, to fill the void with stories, questions, declarations, and laughter. We used to fight over words, yes, but they were ours. And now, the tools that built us have become our undoing. We tried to control it, to quarantine it, to study it, but we never stopped to wonder what might happen if language turned against us, if meaning itself started pulling apart at the seams. We thought silence would save us, but silence doesn't cure anything. It only delays the final sound. Still, I hope, somewhere in this quiet, you find something worth saving. A hum, a pulse, a phrase too stubborn to fade. This is not a call to action. There's no one left to rally. This is not a warning. You've already heard too much. This is an epitaph for a species that loved to speak too much, too fast, too often, until it finally spoke the one thing it couldn't unsay. So if you're still out there, this was my voice, and for whatever it's worth, I remember yours. I was going to end the broadcast there. Let it loop. Let it drift into the static like everything else. But something happened. The board flickered. Power surged briefly, and then a sound. Not from the tapes, not from my voice. Something new. No, not new. Something old. It came through the static, quiet, careful, soft, like breath against the inside of your skull. The syllables didn't mean anything. Not by themselves. Not in any language we've ever spoken. But I knew them. I recognized them. I felt them before I heard them. And the moment they touched my ears, I felt everything go still inside me. Not stop. Still. The kind of stillness that comes just before the fall. It wasn't the first word. It wasn't the second. It was what comes after. It felt like the punctuation mark to the end of a very long sentence, and it didn't come through any system. It wasn't part of the signal. It was the signal. No source, no sender, just a presence, a final utterance that didn't demand to be understood, only received. And once you've heard it, truly heard it, there's no going back to unhearing, no wall of silence strong enough to keep it out. I'm not going to repeat it. I'm not going to describe it. But I can feel it now. At the edge of everything, I try to think. It's waiting. And it doesn't need to be said aloud anymore. It lives now, in memory, in breath, in the space between heartbeat and thought. And as I sign off, I want to tell you, this is not the end of the broadcast. It's the echo, the one that comes after the voice is gone, the one that always returns. They say memory fades slower than sound. But if you're hearing this, then something of us still remains. A fragment, a frequency, a ripple on the surface of whatever this world has become. And maybe that's all survival is now. Not forgetting too fast. Before I let go of this mic, I need to ask you something. Do you remember the first word you ever said? And if that word was taken from you, if it was erased, who would you be without it? Think about that, because maybe that's what the word wanted from the start. Not silence, just surrender. We've been in this together, me, you, the static between us. You've listened when it was easier to turn away. You stayed when the signal frayed. You remembered, even when it hurt. So don't let this broadcast vanish. Leave a trace. Tell me in the comments, what do you think the second word really was? What do you think it wanted? And if this story echoes somewhere inside you, share it with someone whose voice you still remember, because memories deserve to be carried forward, not swallowed by silence. Subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for whatever reaches us next. This is VoiceCast signing off, but remember, not all broadcasts end when the signal dies.